Have you ever noticed how your mind can create a disaster before anything has even happened? One normal moment, one small doubt, one unanswered question, and suddenly your brain starts building a future you never asked for. You imagine the worst reply, the worst result, the worst reaction, the worst version of what could happen next. And the strange part is, you know it might not be true, but your body reacts like it is. Your chest feels heavy, your stomach tightens, your thoughts move faster, and for a few seconds, the fear feels more real than reality. So why does your mind do this? Why does it prepare for pain before pain even arrives? And why does the worst possibility feel easier to believe than the peaceful one? The answer is not that you are negative. The answer is that your brain is trying to protect you from uncertainty. But sometimes, protection becomes fear, and fear becomes a story, and that story starts feeling like the truth. This is called worst-case thinking. It happens when your brain fills the unknown with danger. When it does not know what will happen, it tries to predict what could go wrong. A late reply becomes rejection. A small mistake becomes failure. A strange look becomes judgment. A tiny pain becomes something serious. Your mind is not just thinking, it is preparing. It is scanning. It is trying to make sure you are not caught off guard. At first, this feels useful, because if you expect the worst, maybe you will be ready for it. Maybe it will hurt less. Maybe you can stop it before it happens. But slowly, the brain starts treating imagination like evidence. And this is where the trap begins. Psychologists call this pattern catastrophizing. Catastrophizing means your mind takes one small possibility and turns it into the worst possible outcome. Psychiatrist Aaron Beck studied how thoughts can become distorted. He showed that people often do not suffer only from what happens to them. They also suffer from the meaning their mind gives to what happens. In simple words, the problem is not always the situation. Sometimes it is the story your brain builds around the situation. Someone does not reply. That is the situation. They hate me. That is the story. You make a mistake. That is the situation. I am a failure. That is the story. You do not know what will happen tomorrow. That is the situation. Everything will go wrong. That is the story. And the more your brain repeats the story, the more real it feels. But why does the brain choose the negative story first? One reason is negativity bias. Researchers like Baumeister helped explain that bad experiences often affect the mind more strongly than good ones. One insult can stay longer than many compliments. One fear can feel louder than many signs of safety. This sounds unfair, but for survival, it made sense. Your ancestors did not need to notice every beautiful flower, but they did need to notice danger, a shadow in the dark, a strange sound, a hostile face, a threat from outside the group. The brain that expected danger was more likely to survive. So your mind learned to ask one powerful question: what if something goes wrong? That question protected humans for thousands of years. But today, it can turn everyday life into a battlefield. There may be no predator outside, but your brain can turn a message, a silence, a bill, a relationship, or a future decision into danger. The neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux studied how the brain reacts to fear. His work showed that the emotional brain can respond very fast, sometimes before the logical brain fully understands what is happening. That is why your body can react before you have proof. Your heart races, your stomach drops, your muscles tighten, then your mind tries to explain the feeling. And often, it explains it with fear. Something must be wrong. But a feeling is not always a fact. A fear is not always a warning. And a possibility is not always a prediction. So how do you stop expecting the worst? First, name the pattern. Say, this is worst-case thinking. This is uncertainty. This is my brain trying to protect me. That one sentence creates distance. You are no longer inside the story. You are watching the story. Then ask yourself, what do I actually know? Not what you fear, not what you imagine. not what your anxiety is predicting. What do you actually know? Fact, they replied late. Story, they are ignoring me. Fact, I made a mistake. Story, I am a failure. Fact, the future is uncertain. Story, it will definitely go badly. When you separate fact from story, your mind becomes clearer. Next, ask, is there one real action I can take? If yes, take it. Send the message. Prepare the task. Ask clearly. Rest. Apologize if needed. But if there is no action, then more thinking may not be helping. It may only be feeding fear. Your mind expects the worst because it wants certainty before life gives you answers. It wants safety before the future arrives. It wants to protect you before pain gets close. But here is the truth. Most of the disasters your mind creates never fully happen. Most of the stories fear tells you are only possibilities, not facts, not destiny, not proof. And maybe peace does not come from knowing that nothing bad will ever happen. Maybe peace comes from realizing that you do not have to live through the worst-case scenario before it arrives. You can notice the thought. You can question the story. You can return to what is real right now. This breath, this moment, this one step, because your brain may always try to protect you. It may always look for shadows. It may always ask, what if something goes wrong? But you can learn to answer, what if I am safer than I think? What if I can handle more than I believe? What if this is only fear speaking? So the next time your mind creates a disaster before anything has happened, pause, look at the story, and remind yourself, a scary thought is not a prediction. A fear is not a fact. And the worst ending your brain imagines is not the only ending your life can have. Maybe your mind is not broken. Maybe it is just an old guard, trying too hard to protect you. And maybe healing begins when you stop obeying every alarm it rings. If this video helped you understand your mind a little better, subscribe for more deep dives into psychology, human behavior, and the hidden systems inside your brain. Because sometimes, understanding your mind is the first step to finally feeling free.